Okay, y'all, before we get started for our lesson today, I wanted to let you know what your iReady lesson is for this week. So, this will be one of your teacher assigned lessons that's on the left when you log into Clever and log into iReady. So, for this week, it is analyzing poetry structure, and you have an instruction and you have a quiz. Okay, when you log in, once mine gets done spinning here, yours will look like this when you first log on. Okay,
Enchanted Air.
this is one of the lessons that is shorter than the one that we had last week. Okay, so when you log in, you'll go through the instruction, and then once you get done with the instruction, you'll have your quiz that you need to finish. Both of these are required. Okay, so for this week, you don't have any iReady workbook pages that you have to do. So what we did this week to kind of make poetry a little more relatable to y'all and things that'll make it easier for you to understand and easier to put into real life, I've picked a poem that I think that you will enjoy, and then Miss Baxter is going to go through a song lyrics with you, and Miss Perkins going to do that as well this week. So the poem that I have chose for us to analyze today is titled Dear Basketball by Kobe Bryant. I'll go ahead and read the poem that's over here on the left and then kind of talk it through with you, and then we'll just have a few questions that we'll answer over here on the right. So, Dear Basketball by Kobe Bryant. Dear Basketball, from the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you. A love so deep, I gave you my all, from my mind and body to my spirit and soul. As a 6-year-old boy deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself running out of one. And so I ran. I ran up and down every court, after every loose ball for you. You asked for my hustle. I gave you my heart because it came with so much more. I played through the sweat and hurt, not because challenge called me, but because you called me. I did everything for you, because that's what you do when someone makes you feel as alive as you've made me feel. You gave a 6-year-old boy his Laker dream, and I'll always love you for it. But I can't love you obsessively for much longer. This season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding, my mind can handle the grind, but my body knows it's time to say goodbye. And that's okay. I'm ready to let you go. I want you to know now, so we both can savor every moment we have left together, the good and the bad. We have given each other all that we have, and we both know, no matter what I do next, I'll always be that kid with the rolled up socks, garbage can in the corner, 5 seconds on the clock, ball in my hands, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love you always, Kobe. Okay, so I chose this poem because I think a lot of the times we think of poetry as something that was written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. That number one is really hard to read because they use words that we don't use now. And number two, it's hard to understand because the message is really, really hard to understand. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of walk through this with you like we did last week on the video with the workbook, but we're not going to go into as much detail as we did last week because this one I think is a little bit more straightforward than the ones that were in your book last week. So I'm going to start here with numbering our stanzas here like we did last week. And my writing might be a little messy because I'm just writing with the pen that's on this PowerPoint. Okay, so right here where it says Dear Basketball, that's going to be my first stanza because it stands apart from this next group of lines. Okay, right here, from the moment and all the way to where it says, I knew one thing was real. That is our second stanza. And if you notice, the first stanza only had 1 line, and then stanza 2 has 6 lines. So this doesn't follow the same pattern that ours last week did. Okay, this one, the only line is, I fell in love with you. That's it. But that's still going to be our third stanza because it's set apart from the rest of these. This is our fourth stanza. Here's our fifth one. This is going to be stanza number 6. This is stanza number 7. And then if I come to the top up here, this is 8. Okay, then this one, that is one of the longest stanzas in the poem, that's going to be stanza 9, stanza 10, 11, and then the closing of the poem is going to be stanza 12. Okay, so the ones last week that we looked at, they all had the same number of lines in each of the stanzas. And if you can see here, Kobe's poem does not follow that at all. Okay, so some of them only have one line, some of them have, like stanza 9 has 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, out of 8 lines. Okay, and if I look here at the rhyme scheme like we did last week, so if I look at the end of each line, like on this one, this stanza 2, I have the word moment. If I'm looking at every single word at the end of the line, there's not another word that rhymes with moment. If I look at socks, there isn't another word in that stanza that rhymes either. So like in your I Ready lesson last week, you could label it A, B, A, B, A, B for your rhyme scheme. But as I go through this whole poem, it does not follow a specific rhyme scheme at all. So what we call that, since it doesn't follow a specific pattern, is we call it free verse. And I'm just going to type that up here at the top. Okay, so this is free verse because it doesn't follow a specific pattern for rhyme scheme, stanzas, anything like that. Okay, so if we look through here, this is a poem that Kobe Bryant wrote when he announced his retirement from basketball back in 2015. So I can visualize everything in this poem because it takes you back to him at the beginning of his life when he was a young child. He was rolling up his dad's socks and shooting imaginary baskets. And then it goes through, it talks about him as a 6-year-old boy again, deeply in love with the game of basketball. And then it walks you through him as a young athlete. And then near the end of the poem, he's saying right here that in stanza 9, he can't love you, which is basketball, obsessively for much longer. This season is all he has left to give. So this poem has a lot of imagery. You could close your eyes and visualize him shooting tube socks into a basket. You could visualize him in stanza 6 running up and down every court after every loose ball for the game of basketball. So there's a lot of imagery that goes with this poem. Okay, if I go over here to the questions here, and this is just something you can follow along. This is not in your packet. It's just a poem that's going to help you understand the meaning of it a little bit more. So question 1, it says, what point of view is this poem written in? So I have first person. So I know the pronouns to look for first person are going to be I, me, words that I could use. So if I look through here, I see I started rolling my dad's tube socks. So both of those words are words that could help you with first person. I see I fell in love with you. I gave you my all. So I think that the best option for number 1, it's going to be written in first person. Also because Kobe Bryant, we know he is the author and he's putting himself in this poem. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so there is our answer to number 1. So it's written in first person. Okay, for number 2, what is being personified? So personification means that you're giving something that is not a human, you're giving it human qualities. So I know that this is titled Dear Basketball. So I know basketball is a main point of this poem. So if I look here, I need to think basketball. That's an object. It's not a human. But what is Kobe Bryant giving basketball? What qualities that a human could do? So if I look here to stanza 6, so I ran up and down every court. After every loose ball for you, you asked for my hustle. So think, can a basketball ask you for anything? And the answer is no, it can't. So right there, you asked for my hustle. That's an example of personification. If I go to stanza 7 here, I played through the sweat and hurt, not because challenge called me, but because you called me. So think, can a basketball actually call someone out, actually talk to them? No, they can't. So stanza 7 is also an example of personification. So if we look over here for stanza or question 2, what is being personified? Basketball is being personified because basketball cannot talk to you, it can't call you out, but he's giving a basketball human characteristics. Okay, number 3, what type of figurative language is in line 21? I gave you my heart. What does it mean? Okay, so if I look, let's see here. I gave you my heart. That's in stanza 6. So I ran up and down every court. After every loose ball for you, you asked for my hustle. I gave you my heart because it came with so much more. Okay, so I need to think of the type of figurative language that maybe what they're saying isn't exactly what they mean. So for number 3, that's going to be an idiom because an idiom, you're expressing something differently other than what you're actually saying. So Kobe Bryant is not saying he's actually going to take his heart out and give it to basketball, but what it's saying is he gave the game everything that he had because what he gained from basketball was so much more than what he got out of it. Okay, and then number 4, what type of figurative language is in stanza 5? And it starts with as a 6-year-old boy. So I've numbered my stanzas here of stanza 5. As a 6-year-old boy, deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself running out of one. Okay, so you need to think, like if you have ever watched a basketball game, when the players run out, the cheerleaders are around, sometimes the fans are around, and they make a tunnel for the players to run out of onto the court. So I think for number 4, Kobe Bryant is using a metaphor. So he's comparing himself. He doesn't see the end of the tunnel. So think of a tunnel. If you're looking at it, you can't see the end. You can't see the light. He can only see himself running out of one. So he can only see himself running out of the tunnel that people make onto the basketball court. And then number 5, what is the theme of the poem? So after we've read all of this, we need to think, what is the lesson that Kobe Bryant is trying to teach us? So we know that he's one of the most successful basketball players to have ever played in the NBA. But he never mentions like how much money he made. He never mentions any of that in here. All he mentions is how much he has gained from the sport of basketball. It's talking about how he can savor every moment they have left together, that he can still picture himself as a young kid with his dad's tube socks shooting into imaginary baskets. So I think the theme here is to find something that you love and love it with your whole heart, because the theme is a message. That message or that moral I could take from Kobe Bryant's poem here of Dear Basketball, and I could apply that to anything in my life, to find something that I love and to do it well.